Okay, so let's dive in. We have this piece you sent us called, well, it's labeled pasted text from March 31st, 2025. And like always, we want to try to pull out what's really at the heart of it.
Yeah.
The stuff that really hits home.
Absolutely. And this one's really interesting because it talks about, this shift, right? From this old world to this completely new way of being, this new world. It really digs deep into what liberation actually means.
Yeah.
Not just the idea, but how we actually live it. Yeah. And I think what's really crucial is that it talks about, like, what are the best things we can do, like, right now as this change is happening.
Yeah. No, that's key. So jumping right in, like the first big question it asks right off the bat is, it demands, what's the best action to take in the present time?
Yeah.
And the answer it gives is so interesting, right? It says to become, well, you may not know, you might know, which is a stick for the blind.
Yeah.
Through your thoughts, words, and actions. Bagla, hiya.
Right. I mean, that's pretty profound imagery right there.
Yeah. So, like, what's the real meaning behind that? How do we actually, like, become that stick for the blind?
Well, I think it's about guidance, right? It describes this current time as being, like, in darkness. And I think what they mean by darkness is, like, this lack of spiritual understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, imagine if you can't see where you're going, you need something to help you, right? Something reliable to help you navigate.
Yeah.
And so that stick, it represents, that reliability,
right?
Not just avoiding pitfalls, but actively leading towards Brahma.
Yeah.
Which is like, true freedom.
Freedom.
And Pulin, which is this state of being liberated, like fulfill, even while you're still, living in this world.
Right. So it's not just like about you escaping, it's about helping other people find their way as well.
Exactly.
And then it mentions Atlander Connor.
Right.
Like churning the ocean of your thoughts to find the right words.
Right.
Like, why is that? Why is that churning so important? If you're going to be that stick, why churn the ocean of your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting because it emphasizes, like, thoughtfulness. It's not just enough to have the knowledge. You have to go deep.
Yeah.
You have to, like, really churn it up inside to pull out the clearest and most helpful way to express it, right?
Right.
And the aim here, it seems, is to make the path towards peace and happiness, like, super understandable for everybody, right? It's like taking a super complicated map and giving people, like, simple directions that they can actually follow.
Like translating the complicated into something easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So then it goes into this idea of a gate to peace and happiness.
Right.
And it uses this imagery of, a magic lamp or like, Aladdin's lamp.
Right.
Showing you visions of paradise, heaven, this land of happiness,
Right.
And it kind of connects that, that lamp with light, right?
Yeah.
And how that contrasts with this current time of darkness. And then it even mentions like exhibitions and these fairs that are, trying to show people this light.
Right.
What's the takeaway, with this whole gate concept?
Well, the lamp, I think it's a symbol, right? It's a symbol of that knowledge that shows us the way forward. And the exhibitions are, like efforts to make that light visible.
Yeah.
But I think the gate itself is like this crucial point where things change. Like imagine moving from one chapter of a book to the next.
The next, yeah.
It's that point where things fundamentally change.
And it's not just any gate, though.
Right.
It's specifically the gate of liberation, life liberation.
Right. Lit-eye, like Woodley stitch in to, like, what is it on part?
His position was so campriadra.
Yeah.
And it even mentions that there are two gates, right?
Yeah.
An in and an out.
An in and an out. So what are those two gates about? What do they represent?
Well, I think if you think about it in terms of like moving from the old to the new, right?
Yeah.
The in gate is like stepping into this new era of understanding, of being,
Right.
And then the out gate is about leaving behind the old ways of thinking, the old ways of living to return back to our real home.
Okay.
This state of like ultimate peace and belonging. And the text points out that, we've kind of forgotten the way. We don't remember how to get back.
Right.
And so this guide, the Baba, The Divine Father is the one who shows us the way through.
Right through these gates to liberation, to life liberation, to peace, to happiness.
Yeah. So the text mentions some possible names for this gate, like gate of peace and happiness. Coming gate of purity, peace, prosperity. Calm. And it also mentions that, these qualities, purity, peace, prosperity, they're missing now.
Yeah.
But they were present in the New World.
Right.
So what's the significance of highlighting what's missing?
I think by naming it after these things that are missing, it's almost like putting a sign on the destination.
Yeah.
Right? You're making it clear what we're aiming for, what this whole transition is all about.
Yeah, it's like labeling it clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so then the text identifies, the founder of this new world as the purifier of the fallen, the Godfather. And it says, we have to leave the old world behind.
Yeah.
And then it talks about a kind of symbolic opening of this gate by Shiv Baba through the Brahmins.
Yeah.
And it contrasts this with, just regular opening ceremonies, like you might have for a building or something.
Right.
So, what's the real difference here that it's trying to highlight?
It's not, like a physical event. It's not just like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
This is about spiritual awakening.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's facilitated through these individuals, the Brahmins, who are embodying the principles of the New World.
Okay.
It's more about an internal shift.
Right.
A change in consciousness, a turning point in how we understand things.
Right.
Not just some, ribbon cutting ceremony.
Right. Okay. So then there's this interesting little story, right, about the children, the students, suggesting that Brahma Baba should, do the inauguration of this gate. And the father's like, no, you can't, leave for these kinds of events. It's not logical. It's not the rule.
Right.
And basically saying that anyone can, open it.
Right.
And then it mentions the name, Prajapita Brahma Kumaris and Kumaris.
You mean?
And it emphasizes that Prajapita means father of all. So what's the message there? In that whole exchange, what's the key thing?
It's emphasizing how universal this is. How anyone can access this.
Yeah.
It's not about one specific person performing some kind of ritual.
Yeah.
It's about everyone's potential to step through this gate. And I think the name Prajapita, it reinforces that, this idea that we all come from the same, spiritual family.
Right, yeah.
We all have that connection.
We all have that connection.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. So the text states that, the father himself conducts the real ceremony as the Karanak Ravanhara, the one who makes the transformation happen.
Right.
And it says, we need to remember that we are establishing heaven.
Yeah.
And that we need to follow Srimat divine guidance with full effort.
Yeah.
We put in the work.
Yeah, put in the work. Yeah, and it comes back to this idea again that the best action is to be that stick for the blind, because everyone's blind right now.
Everyone's in the dark.
Yeah, and this concept of actually creating heaven, here on earth, it seems really central to this whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, establishing heaven, that's the ultimate goal here.
Yeah.
And Trimat, that's the blueprint, the guiding principles, right? For Rusharth. That's the effort, the work you put in to actually make it happen, to make that vision of heaven a reality.
Right. And I think the fact that it keeps coming back to being a stick for the blind, it just highlights how important it is to have that guidance during this transition.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's kind of lost.
We
need
help. Yeah. And it goes on to explain that, the father comes and becomes that stick, giving us the the third eye of knowledge.
The third eye of knowledge, yeah.
Wow.
Which lets us go to heaven based on our effort.
Based on how much effort we put in.
Yeah. And it describes it as this unique combination of a hospital and a university where souls are reminded that their father, the Supreme Father, again, that purifier of the fallen, resides in the ultimate abode.
That's a That's a powerful way to think about it.
Yeah, it's like healing and learning all at the same time.
Yeah, it's like it really captures the transformative nature of this journey, right?
Yeah.
The third eye of knowledge. It's like you're gaining a whole new sense.
You're able to see beyond the surface.
Yeah.
To understand the deeper truths.
Deeper truths, right.
And the hospital university analogy, I think it highlights that, we're not just healing from old wounds.
Yeah.
We're also learning the way to a better future.
Right. Okay. So the path to Kodak, the land of happiness, is explained as remembering the Father.
Manmanabhav.
Manabhava, yeah.
Right.
And it contrasts that with the current world, which it calls hell. And it brings up this idea that, in heaven there was only one religion.
Right.
And it almost expresses surprise that people don't remember being the masters of the world in heaven. Mm-hmm. So, like, what's the core insight there, about remembering? What is it really getting at?
I think the point is that this manmanabhav, this interconnection, it's not just about like repeating things over and over. Yeah. It's about cultivating a constant awareness. That changes, how you see yourself, your whole purpose.
Right.
It's about remembering who you truly are, remembering that potential for peace and happiness.
Right.
That, the text says we've kind of forgotten.
Yeah. Okay, so then it talks about this joy of finding the Father.
Yeah.
But also this influence of Maya, illusion, that can kind of block that joy.
Yeah.
And the remembrance of Shiv Baba. And it uses this analogy, right? It's like the Father's feeding us this nectar of knowledge.
Yeah.
And Maya is feeding us poison.
Right.
Of worldly desire.
Right, the desires of this world.
And it contrasts this with, the true Kankan, the remover of sorrow, the bestower of happiness, with just simply, taking a dip in the Ganges.
Right.
So it's like this constant inner battle, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Maya represents all those distractions, the negativity, the things that can cloud our spiritual understanding. And the nectar and poison analogy, I think it's so powerful, because it really highlights that choice between what truly nourishes us and what, ultimately brings us down.
Right.
And the comparison to the Ganges, I think it emphasizes that, real purification comes from that direct connection with the source.
Yeah. Not just, outward rituals, but that inner connection. Okay. So the Father's teachings really stress, being so careful about what you think, what you say, what you do, and especially avoiding anger, which it says starts in your thoughts, and then it comes out in your words and your actions.
Those 3 windows.
The 3 windows, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's even advice about, not talking so much.
Right.
Cultivating silence.
Silence is golden.
It emphasizes not giving sorrow to anyone, even in your thoughts. And the benefits of just being still. Yeah. These are very practical things,
These are like those everyday guidelines, right, for how we navigate life. And I think, by being aware of where that negativity comes from, we can actually control it. And silence, it's not just about not speaking, it's about creating that calm space inside.
Yeah.
Where we can, be more thoughtful, less reactive.
Right. Yeah.
And ultimately, prevent ourselves from causing harm.
Right. And the text says, that the Father reveals this gate to heaven, to peace and happiness, to the children who then have to share it. And it even connects the Mahabharata war to the opening of this gate.
That's interesting.
And then it mentions the Father's, turning of the ocean of thoughts every morning,
right,
for clarity and guidance, and even thinking about what to call this whole thing. So there's this idea of constant work and sharing, right? That seems pretty crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. The Mahabharata War, I think it's often seen here as this symbol of the struggle
that we all have inside between good and bad.
Right.
And the opening of the gate is like the shift towards a more positive, enlightened way of being.
Okay.
And the Father doing that inner work every day.
Yeah.
It shows us how important it is to always be seeking wisdom.
Yeah.
And then to share it.
Share it with others. Yeah.
It's a constant cycle.
Right. It describes making the fallen pure as turning hell dwellers into heaven dwellers.
Right.
And it contrasts this reverence for pure deities with, our current inability to really respect anybody.
Yeah.
And it says we need tact and wisdom even when we feel like we're making progress, And it points out that people often only remember God when they're dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
This seems like it's bridging the gap, between these really high ideals and just the messiness of being human.
Exactly. It's about putting these principles into practice.
Yeah.
In our everyday lives, recognizing that everyone has value.
Yeah.
Even if they don't seem pure.
Right. And using tact and wisdom.
Yeah.
To interact with compassion, with understanding.
Right.
Not judging.
Right.
And yeah, it's natural to remember the divine at the end.
Yeah.
But it's about cultivating that connection throughout life.
Right, throughout life.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the text mentions, this increase in global conflicts starting in Valaya, foreign lands, eventually engulfing the whole world.
The world, yeah.
And it says, the children will be left with purified souls to inherit a new world. It even mentions, like, Aladdin's lamp and finding a treasure like Karun's.
That's interesting imagery.
Yeah, so it's almost like this huge global shift, right?
It's pointing to this huge cycle of purification and renewal. The conflicts are like part of that process that leads to a more peaceful, and a more spiritually aware world.
Okay.
And I think those images, Aladdin's lamp, Karun's treasure, they're symbols of this incredible potential, this spiritual wealth that's waiting for us.
Okay. So it says that remembering Shiv Baba is connected to having visions effortlessly, like the 9 forms of devotion. And it talks about the direct experience of the Ibakak, the aim object.
Right.
Leading to really intense remembrance of the Father in heaven. And it says that those who are absorbed in this remembrance and knowledge, they'll witness the final scenes.
Wow.
So this is a very deep level.
It's a profound level of connection.
Yeah, so these effortless visions, they're like a natural result.
Yeah, they come naturally.
This really deep spiritual connection.
Right, when you're that connected.
Yeah.
Just it flows.
Yeah.
And the aim object, that's like the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
It's merging with the divine.
Okay.
And witnessing the final scenes. I think that suggests like a level of clarity. You're able to observe everything without being overwhelmed by it.
Okay. It says, remembering the self as a soul and the Father, it takes a lot of effort. And it compares it to more than just a casual visit home.
Right.
And it says that this remembrance allows us to see with divine vision, just like the Father.
Yeah.
It compares this to like the really focused efforts in devotional paths that lead to visions.
Right.
So it seems like this constant conscious effort is what really makes the transformation happen.
Absolutely. I mean, recognizing that you are a soul.
Yeah.
Connecting with the Supreme Soul.
Yeah.
It's not something that just happens automatically.
Right.
It takes focus.
It takes work, yeah.
It takes effort.
Yeah. Okay. So the text explains that if you do that, if you have that continuous remembrance, it brings you great happiness and ongoing visions.
It is, yeah.
And it leads to forgetting the physical world and becoming Manmanabhav.
Wow.
And it even describes leaving the body through the power of yoga. And it contrasts like the outward efforts in devotion with the subtle, constant remembrance here. And finally, it says that all karmic accounts are settled through yoga, not just knowledge. And that karmic bonds are cleared through remembrance, like this secret process.
That's pretty profound.
It ties together a lot of things, right? Like the remembrance, the power, and the freedom from the past.
Yeah, it's highlighting that this is, it's more than just an idea. It's a whole way of being.
Right.
Knowledge gives you the understanding, but it's the practice, the yoga, that connection, that remembrance that really, cleanses the soul and frees you from that cycle of karma.
Karma, yeah.
And the fact that it calls it a secret process, I think that points to how powerful it is.
Yeah.
And how much is happening beneath the surface.
Right, that we don't see. Okay, so then it gives 2 main principles for practice. That's the Treta Ekanai. It says, first, never get angry in thought, word, or deed.
Watch those 3 windows.
Watch the 3 windows. Don't talk too much, and don't cause anyone any sorrow. And second, stay absorbed in knowledge and yoga so you can witness the final scenes. forget your own and others' physical identities, and end body consciousness by remembering you're a soul.
Right.
These are like very direct, things you can actually do.
Yeah, these are like those key guidelines,
Right.
for how we live. The first one, it's about, keeping yourself pure, interacting with people in a positive way.
Right.
The second one is about staying connected, to that spiritual source.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And the blessing it gives is beautiful. May you be a loving soul filled with love and attainment who wounds others with the arrow of love.
Wow.
And it explains that, just like worldly love is really obvious. You can see it.
Yeah.
Our inner love for the Father should also shine through, and it's about being filled with that love and that achievement.
Yeah. Not just the outward show, but the real deal.
The real deal.
Yeah.
It's about like radiating that love that can change people.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Okay. So the slogan is, bring the time of completion closer through perfection.
That's a great slogan.
Yeah.
It's like a call to action.
Yeah.
Right? It's saying, our personal growth, our efforts to be perfect,
Yeah.
they actually contribute to something much bigger.
To something much bigger. Yeah.
To making this transformation happen.
Right. Okay. And finally, there are these unexpressed hints about adopting a culture of truthfulness and civility.
Yeah.
It mentions that people are starting to realize that this is someone special.
Yeah.
And that we need to establish that this is the one and only. It explains that, while people are understanding more, the arrow of conviction needs to be really firmly planted. It highlights that the foundation is new knowledge, selfless love, and spiritual love. And that the authority of true knowledge and loving souls needs to be clear for a true revelation to happen.
Right.
This is looking towards a future of greater awareness.
Right. It's like it's hinting at what's to come.
Yeah.
A future where these principles are more widely recognized,
Yeah.
embodied, leading to a greater awakening.
Right. So for you, our listener, this deep dive into this pasted text, it gives us a lot to think about. We've got to actively guide others through our thoughts, our words, our actions. This spiritual gate, it represents stepping into a future defined by peace, happiness, purity, prosperity, facilitated by that purifier of the fallen. We have to remember who we truly are, as souls, and connect with the supreme soul.
Right.
That's what makes the transformation happen. That's what helps us navigate the illusions and overcome the burdens of the past.
Yeah.
And these practical steps, mindful communication, inner stillness, cultivating love.
Yeah.
That's how we move forward.
They're like the tools.
Yeah.
The tools for creating that better future.
Right. So what really stands out to you from all of this?
What really hits home for me is how connected it all is. It's not just some, abstract philosophy. It's a practical guide for living with purpose, for contributing to a better world.
Right. So think about this, listener. In your life, what does it actually look like to be that stick for the blind? How can you bring more purity, peace, prosperity into your own thoughts and actions right now?
Yeah.
And if everyone actually lived by these principles, what kind of new world could we create?
It's a powerful question.
Yeah, it's a powerful question.
It makes you think about your role in all of this.
Yeah.
The potential for change.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing this really interesting and thought-provoking source material with us.
Yeah, this was a great one.
And thank you, listener, for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We hope this has given you, something to really think about.
Yeah, lots to ponder.
And if you have other things you want us to explore, send them our way.
We're always ready for a new dive.
Always ready for a new dive.